show that. So I've got to get my cadence down so I do everything right. Make this a seamless class for you all. That's an excellent short movie, and certainly illustrates the things that are much more important than learning anything about business. Because if you don't have character, you're not worth much to anybody. So I hope you will keep that in mind, because that's what I really want to do, is to help you become and continue to grow as um, uh, people of character and integrity. I've just got something here that had come in. Mercy. Let me check off whom I don't have. Jennifer Bazan. Um, Isel Cabanilla.
I'm here.
Okay, good. And then I did see Elizabeth. Is Yuan Chang here? Okay. Caitlin, I saw and talked to, as a matter of fact. Diego Corona, I saw. Um, Ingrid Koss, I saw. Jesse Cruz, I saw. Ehab, I saw. Xing Liang, I saw. Yu Yen is here.
Yeah.
Armando Garay or Gary,
Here.
where are you? Okay, good. Thank you. Alejandro Guerrero. He's out. It's actually Alejandra, so my mistake. Hugo Herrera.
Here.
Okay, good, Hugo. I saw Travis Humphrey and Ryan Jones and Vanessa.
I'm here, Professor.
Yep, I saw you. How about David Milago?
Here.
Milago. Okay, good, David. Thank you. Jose Mendoza. Yep, I see you. Big man.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Then we've got Yu Yang Kian.
Yeah.
Okay, good, Yu Yang. Francisco Ramirez.
Here, Professor.
Where are you, Francisco?
Can you see me?
Yeah, now I can see you.
Okay, good.
I don't know. I presume it does it on your screen as well, that you all move around. And it's very hard
Oh,
to
yes, we do.
keep everyone pinned down. Let's see. So we got Francisco. Better mark you in after I had that long conversation with you. Alonzo is here. Issei is here, and Mario Ruiz is here. Edza, we got you taken care of.
Yeah.
And Natalie Perez.
I'm here.
Good. I expect you to be there after we've moved you around and worked so hard to get you where you are now. So good. Thank you. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to have to do today, and I have to I've allowed us to slip one day at least on our schedule. So if you looked at the schedule that I attached to the what do you call it, the syllabus, you'll see that we were supposed to have our first trial on Tuesday, and that's going to have to be postponed because I'm not I haven't gone far enough to get you prepared for that. So what and it turns out that the lecture I'm going to give you today is long enough that I really am not going to be able to complete it today. So what I had done this morning is to record the technical part of what I'm going to show you and put it out as a YouTube. And the YouTube's name, you can get it right now, as a matter of fact, is Examining Reports in the BSG Game. Now I'll put a link on that, or put it out on Blackboard as well. So that was examining reports in the BSG Game. And then having gotten it that far, and I'll tell you, it really has been busting my pick to get all these things recorded and then moved across to YouTube. When I got it out there, I don't think that the quality is as good as I'd like to see it. So I'll probably re-record that. It's 57 minutes long, so I will re-record it and put it out, but it'll have the same title, so not to worry. I also have an assignment for you that I want you to read the first 33 pages of Michael Porter. And I think all of you by this time have gotten this in one form or another. Start right at page 1, go all the way to page, I think I've got that right, to page 33. And this will tie in. This is about what competition is all about. And that's going to be apropos of what we'll be doing when we go into the game this next week. The other thing I'm going to ask you to do is to read out of this book. And I was talking to Caitlin beforehand, and she said she'd been able to get it pretty easily. I'd like to have you read the first 15 pages. Read the Porter book first. This picture book is going to help you a lot, but I want you to have the detail of the Porter book before you start looking at all the pictures. It's done quite cleverly, and I think you're going to learn a lot from the two of these together.
Professor?
You can do that by Tuesday.
Professor,
Any question, Travis?
how many pages did you want us to read from Joan McGretta's book, The What is Strategy? From the picture book.
First 33. That's it's actually, I think, the first chapter. Travis, you say what?
For the picture book, how many pages did you want us to read?
The first 15, and they should be parallel. That
Okay.
should be pretty close to parallel. And I think you'll get a kick out of it. There's a lot of good learning in there, but I think it will be enjoyable rather than a drudge. Now, what I'm going to spend the weekend doing is assigning all of you to teams. So it was very important for me, and I have not done all the checking necessary to see if you've all done it, but it's very important to me to have you have the give me your life story, which I'd requested along with your time, availability of time in your major, because I want to assemble teams where you're going to have either 3 or 4. I have to do a body count here and see how many we actually have enrolled. Either 3 or 4 people to a team, and I'm going to be doing the allocation on the basis of the times you have available to meet, because you've got to meet for a couple hours every decision round. No, there's just no question about that. And also want to make sure that there's a spread of different capabilities you have: a finance, an accounting, a marketing, and an operations at a minimum. We have all those covered, because that'll make everything a lot easier for you all. So that's why I was so insistent about getting that write-up on you, so I can do the allocation. Now, if we were in a classroom setting, what we would have done instead was we would had speed dating, where you could walk around the room and choose your own people to work with. But since you don't have the ability to really see or know each other that well because of the Zoom, I'm going to do the choosing for you, and you'll get to know each other very well by the end of the semester. Lewis, you got a nice sunset there behind you over the Golden Gate Bridge.
Thank you.
All right. So, any questions? Because now most of the rest of this is going to be taken up by the soft part of the understanding the game. Now, is it fair to assume that all of you have at least tried to get onto the game at this point? Of course, you've pulled down your user's manual, but have you gone ahead to look at any of the reports that are out there for your industry? Your industry 99. Okay, so it's important that you at least be able to get there. You know, I try and do some of this stuff like putting things on YouTube, and so I watch some of the other YouTubes out there that give instructions, and invariably they start on what would be step 2, and I can't get to step 1 to get the thing started, so I end up spending hours just trying to get to the starting line, and I don't want to have you have to do that as well with this game. So let's go take a look at it, and we'll go from there. Now, when I'm showing this stuff, if you don't understand something, or if I ask for some kind of a contribution from you, just chime right in, and I'll make sure you get credit for having said something, even if it's just boo. So did that. So we're going to start talking now about what the BSG game is about. And I will have to spend about 3 lectures in a row on this with you. Some of it you're going to be right in the midst of making things work with the game. But this is your chance to manage a growing and successful company. So this is some of the groundwork for you. First of all, the game is complex. Is there anyone that can say amen to that statement?
Party, amen to that.
Okay, yes. It is complex. It's going to take you a while to get into it, but I guarantee you, this is game number 99. So I've been through this. Well, I had game number 98 this morning, but I've been through this to completion 97 times, and I'll guarantee you, most everyone starts out in a fog and ends up enjoying the experience. So you got to study the player's manual and the videos. There's lots of videos out there for you too on the game itself to understand thoroughly what you're doing. Otherwise, you're not going to do well and you'll be frustrated. So what you do over this weekend before our next class is going to determine a lot of your success in the course. So you've got to study the manual. You've got to read the Magretta book. You've got to read the book on what is strategy for the first chapter in the case of Magretta, and for the first 15 pages in the case of the strategy book. So here's your current company situation. Everyone starts at exactly the same place. You got 2 trial decisions, and then the game has reset the original parameters. So you go right back to year 10. This is, I'm telling you something you don't know yet, but you're starting with a company that's 10 years old. So you will have year 10 results, and you'll be projecting out for year 11 and beyond. Now, it's important to be able to go back to that, because from time to time, you'll find as you go through the game, hey, I'm not liking the decisions, I'm not liking the results. You can always go back to year 10 and find out where were you when you started, and then perhaps use that as a way to kind of find the corrections you need to make to get yourself back on track. As I said, the company is 10 years old. You're going to be doing year 11, both for the trial and also for the real game. Each decision period is 1 year, and in total, as far as getting a score or a something towards your grade, you're going to be making 10 decisions. Plus, I'm going to say parenthetically, the 2 trial decisions. Now, this is what you're going to be managing. You have 4 geographic regions. Can anyone name those for me?
One of them was North America. I believe another one was Asia.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't even remember. I'm still reading the manual, but I don't remember the other 2.
Latin America.
Huh?
Latin
yeah.
America.
Latin America.
And
Was it Africa was the other one?
Yeah,
Africa.
it's actually Europe, Africa.
Europe, Africa.
So
Okay.
who gave me the first 2?
That was me, Vanessa.
Let's see. This is how I get acquainted with you. Vanessa Levis. And who gave me Latin America?
Humphrey.
Okay. And how about Africa? Europe, Africa.
That was me.
And who is that?
That was Jose.
Oh, Jose. Okay, good.
Yes.
So Mendoza.
Yes.
All right, good. Yeah, those are the 4 areas that you're working with. And you have factories, incidentally, in 2 of those 4, one in North America and one in Asia Pacific. The other areas, Latin America and Europe, Africa, and what you're talking about when you talk about Africa, it really is just the area around the Mediterranean. So it's really the European culture. There you're doing distribution, but you don't have a factory. You have 3 channels of distribution. There's the internet. And make some notes on this. It's about 15% of your total sales right now. And the second channel of distribution is through, we could call them dealers, retailers, or wholesalers. Any one of those three terms would be applicable. That's about 85% of your business. Now, where are you going to put your most time in decision making?
We're going to
Given
put our
Retail.
What's that?
we're going to put our most time in wholesale because it gets more of our percent of sales.
Right. So we always want to look at where the most dollars are invested. And who was that said that?
Francisco Ramirez?
Francisco, thank you. Of course, it's not Francisco, it's Francisco, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So you always have to, it's fun to sell on the internet. But you really need to keep your attention focused on where you've got the most dollars at risk, and that's going to be in the wholesale. Now, when you start out with the internet being about 15% of the volume for the industry, not just for your firm, but for the industry, it'll grow. The percentage of total sales will grow from 15% up to probably 20, maybe 22% during the course of the 10 decisions. Now, will you have 15, will your share of your total sales in internet be 15 at the start and 22 at the end? Not necessarily. You may choose to put more emphasis than that in the internet, or to do less. But those are all strategic decisions that you'll be making. The third channel of distribution is through private label. And say this one thing about private label. Private label is only for excess capacity. The only reason to dip into the private label market is because you've got idle equipment, because the prices are going to be in the gutter. And the only way you can make money when you're selling in the gutter is by minimizing your costs, and that comes about as taking idle equipment and putting it to work and letting it make some marginal dollars for you. So everyone know what I mean when I say marginal dollars?
I don't know what you mean.
Okay, thank you. When you sell, each time you sell an item, you will get a gross margin. And that is the sale value minus the direct costs will give you a gross margin. So as long as we recover an amount equal to or greater than the actual cost of the materials and labor, which we also call cost of goods sold. If we get an amount in our sale dollars greater than that cost of goods sold, we will be making a marginal contribution toward our total costs. So if we've got that idle capacity, if we made all of our money on selling our regular customers, so we've still got idle capacity left over, we can take that business for as low as the sale price minus the actual cost of materials and labor, which will be the margin. We can sell it for just a marginal amount and still come out ahead. Does that give a little remove some of the fog? If it doesn't, let me know. Is anybody there?
I'm here, Professor.
Okay, what do you think? Did that give it some level of explanation for you?
Yeah, it cleared up some things. I read a little bit of the manual, but yeah,
Okay. All right, so we've got 4 geographic regions, 3 channels of distribution, a total of 12 market channel combinations that you have to manage. So you've got to pay attention to each of those 12 possibilities every round. Now, your current situation is that you're year 10 revenues are $433 million. And you got a net profit of $40 million. Now that's equal to $2 a share. How many shares are outstanding?
$20 million?
Yep, 20 million times 2, $40 million. 40 million divided by 2 is 20 million shares. So that's something that we want to know and be able to figure out. So that's how many shares are outstanding. It's 20 million shares. Now the ROE is 19%. So what does ROE mean? Anybody want to take a shot at that?
Return of expenses.
That's close. It is return,
Equity.
and not on expenses, it turns out, but it's a return on something else that begins with an E.
Return
On
on
earnings?
equity.
Hmm? What was that?
Sorry, go ahead.
Return on equity.
Hey, there you go. Who said that?
Me, Ingrid.
What was your first name, please?
Ingrid.
Ingrid. Okay.
Yes.
I don't know you well enough to pick you up by voice name yet, but just when you do make a contribution, let me know. And who was the first person that came up with return on equity?
That was me, Professor Luis.
And say your name one more time.
Luis Lopez.
Luis, okay. Up at the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. So if we know the return on equity, we should be able to figure out what the equity is. This is a little harder calculation. Does anybody want to describe how I might be able to find that? Okay, well, I'll explain it. First of all, R in that equation is return, or in another term we could use for that is the profit, and the O is on. And the equity is the amount that if we liquidated the company, if we shut up shop, sold everything off, that equity is the amount that we should be able to distribute to the shareholders. So in this case, if we know that the return on equity, that's the profit divided by equity, is 19%, we should be able to back that up and determine what the equity is. And we can do that by, I'm going to describe this, and if someone's got a calculator, they can figure it out for me. We know what 19% of the return on equity is. So we can take that number, and incidentally, that return on equity is $40 million. That is the return. We can take that $40 million and divide that by 19%, and that should tell us how much 100% of the equity is. So if someone's got a calculator and can figure that out, I can always reach for mine.
Is it 210?
Let's see. So you take the 40 million, divide by 0.19.
Yeah.
And that's what you got.
Yes.
And that's an important number too, because that tells us how, when we put our money at risk, which is what we do when we buy shares or when we invest in the company, we expect to get a certain level of return. And common stocks over the last 100 years have returned about 8% per year over that entire spectrum. This is a whole basket of shares. That would be what you would expect to get. So 19% is a substantially higher number. So that's just something to file away for use, because I'll bring this up again in a later class. Your stock price is currently $30 a share, and your credit rating is B. Now, ideally, what we'd like to be is have an A credit rating. But if you're doing what I consider to be the right things for the first half of the game, you're more likely to be pushing your credit rating down toward C, like a B- or something like that, rather than up toward an A. And the reason for that is somewhere along the line, pretty early in the game, you'll be wanting to make a decision to increase the amount of capacity you have. In order to do that, you're going to have to build a factory or buy equipment. To accomplish that, you're going to need cash money to pay for it. And the way we get that is to borrow the money from the bank or obtain the money by selling additional shares. But in both cases, what this does is it weakens the company. And if you look at it specifically, if we borrow money, that means we have fewer resources that are not, and the word here is encumbered. Because if we borrow from the bank is going to want to put a lien on our property. And so our credit rating will go down, but that is essential for growing your business. Somebody who's older like I am can take the position, we just won't add any capacity. We're doing just fine right where we are. We won't grow at all, but we won't take any risks. That's probably not, well, it certainly is not the most effective decision, but you may choose to do that. So don't be overly concerned about credit rating early in the game. That's something that'll be a kind of a fallout, and it will move upward if you do well to an A by the end of the game. So at this point, your company's in sound financial condition, performing well, and its products are all well regarded. Now, is everyone comfortable with what I've told you so far, or is there anything there that bothers you?
Wait, I don't understand how he got the 210 because I tried doing it and I got
Okay.
210 million.
I want to get the person that did the calculation. What's the name of that person?
Humphrey.
Okay. So Travis, you made that calculation, and who asked for the result?
Me, Vanessa. I just got a little confused. I don't.
Okay, well, that's why we want to go over it, because we don't want to have people living in confusion. And do you understand it? Did you get a moment of clarity, or do we need to? You want to go through it one more time?
I was hoping he could go through it really quickly because I don't think I did it right.
Okay. Well, we said that a return on equity is the profit divided by the equity. We know what the profit is, and we don't know what the equity is. And we want to find out what that equity is. And so it turns out that if you take that profit, the R, divided by E, you'll get 19%. And if you could remember your associative laws of multiplication and division, we can just swap the E for the 19%.
Okay, I get it now, Professor. I calculated
Okay.
it wrong, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, usually people say, well, it's 19% times the profit, 40 million times 19%, and they get a much different number. But this goes back to that early algebra, and so you'll understand, Vanessa, I never got past basic arithmetic, so we don't ever do anything very complicated in this class.
Okay, thank you.
All right. But you guys can help me out, because I'm sure you know more about that part of the world than I do. Okay, so the decisions. Each cycle, you have a number of decisions that you have to make. First of all, you have to decide how you're going to allocate your production between branded and private label shoes. There are a total of about 40 decisions involved in that. First one, of course, is how much of it is going to be allocated toward branded product versus private label product. The private label product will be sold to somebody like Walmart, and they'll have a Walmart name on it instead of the Michael Jordan's Air Jordan that you might have on yours. And that, of course, is a function of whether you have Michael Jordan as a celebrity sponsor. You have to consider how many sizes of product you're going to have and how many different styles. So think in terms of 40 decisions, each of the 10 decision rounds. The plant capacity. You have an amount of capacity right now that's made up of two parts: a factory building and the equipment inside the factory. And each of those move around or get added to or subtracted from independently. You have the option to buy a factory if somebody puts one up for sale. Someone may say, look, I do not like Asia Pacific. I don't want to work there. I'm going to put all my resources in North America and in Europe, Africa. And so they might sell that plant in Asia Pacific and take the money and invest it in Europe, Africa. Of course, you've already got one in North America anyhow. You can also buy, if someone offers a plant for sale, you can buy that. Or ultimately you can build. There is a time lag in building a factory. Also, you have the option to do certain upgrades that will increase the capacity of an existing facility, kind of like a shed on the back of the building that you've got some additional space to work in. You have to make decisions on purchasing equipment and retiring equipment. The game will allow you to, when you buy equipment, you'll have a certain number of years before it's all worn out. So you have to plan to replenish it. You have to make net increases in purchased equipment because your factory, your capacity are going to grow. But when the equipment is worn out, and the game determines when it's worn out, it automatically removes the equipment from your ledger, and you can't make anything on that equipment anymore. You have 12 different options in training, 4 locations. I shouldn't say training, but pay and training. You've got 4 different locations where you're doing business. 2 of them have factories, the other 2 are distribution centers. You have multiple things you can do with those 4 locations. You can increase pay or reduce pay. You can go to best practices, which tries to make your way of doing business as good as the best person in the industry. And you can do total quality management. So when you take those 3 together with 4 locations, that's 12 decisions. You have shipping and warehousing decisions that you have to make. You can make product in one area and ship it to another area and sell out of that other area. Here's a real weird one. You might be making product in North America, and because the demand in Asia Pacific is really high, have Asia Pacific make product for its own area, but also import American made goods to Asia Pacific. So, and of course, there are other combinations as well that take into account duty, customs duties, shipping time and shipping costs, costs of maintaining stuff in a warehouse, and then the simple thing that you have to do. In each of the factories, you build product, but none of it is sold directly to the customer, to the end user out of that factory. It all goes, if you're going to make product in North America and have that available for North American customers, it gets shipped from the factory to the North American warehouse. And from the North American warehouse, it gets sold to the end user. And that'll become more apparent as you go along with the game. pricing and marketing, there are all kinds of decisions that you make there, and we're going to look at those in detail in a moment. But a total of 10 decisions in 4 regions. Celebrity endorsements, and these are exceedingly important because the celebrities really do gin up your sales. And if you don't believe it, think about Oprah's book club. She can take a very mediocre book from an author you've never heard of, and by making it as part of her book club, all of a sudden it'll become a bestseller. So that's true for other endorsements as well, not to the extent of Oprah, but you can really gin your sales up if you have good celebrity appeal. You've got 8 decisions that you have to make as far as financing is concerned. You can sell shares out into the market if the price of your shares is high. You can buy shares back in if your prices are low. You can issue bonds and retire bonds. You can pay dividends or do just a stock buyback. That's independent of any other financing decision. So there's lots of options there that you can use. And I think the concern I would have is that there'll be a tendency to work on operations, which you should, and just kind of put the financing decisions off to the side. But they will be require more attention than that. So just kind of file that away. Keep focus on financing. Then you have 6 decisions that you can make in corporate responsibility and citizenship. Now, if you ever listen to the people on the stock exchange talking about a particular stock that they like real well, they'll also say, I either have a position in that is they own some of the shares, or they do not. And of course, we have more credibility if someone recommends a stock that they don't currently own. So I want to be upfront on this corporate social responsibility and citizenship. I don't like to spend any time on that. I think it's important that you do have a social responsibility and that you're good citizens, but I think that just happens as a normal course of business. Today, people are increasingly focused on announcing what they're doing in terms of their social responsibility to the community. And so you have an opportunity to make up to 6 different kinds of decisions for that. And the marketplace will reward you with a little higher value stock, but I don't think it's that much. So I would not spend much time on it. But I can tell you, if you don't do anything in the area of social responsibility and citizenship, the market will punish the share of your prices. So doing something is going to get you good brownie points. But doing a whole lot by spending a lot of money, not a very good idea for an investment. But just don't ignore it entirely. Now, in the marketing side, I said you had 40 possible combinations. And this is because you've got these 10 items and you've got 4 regions in which you can apply them. Obviously, price is one of the things you can do. The number of model styles you have is another. A model is a shoe size, and a style is the specific type of shoe that you have. I happen to be wearing a pair of loafers right now. They're very high quality loafers, so I'm not just sitting around here with my robe on and pretending like I'm working. They're very comfortable and were very expensive when I bought them. But that is one style. Another style is a men's string tie wig tip shoe, the old fashioned shoes that we used to wear 40 or 50 years ago in business. But there's probably 10 to 12 sizes of the loafer and of the wingtip shoe, so that the total number of model styles with just those two specific styles can be as many as 13 sizes if you go in half sizes. 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5. Times 2 is 26 possible model style combinations just with two shoes offered. Now you have to have a minimum of 50. So that's about like maybe 5 different models. And a maximum of 500. Probably the sweet spot is around 200 to 250. I mentioned the term style. There is a function called styling quality, or SQ. And you get this by investing money. It's in product development, really, and in the quality of the raw materials that you use in making your shoe. And you make decisions on that will differentiate your product from other people's product. Advertising, extremely important. And I'm going to jump down to number 8, retailer support. Those two go together because the objective for the, specifically because it's such a good percentage of your volume, the specific area where you're affecting things in retailer support and advertising is with your dealers. And so that points to, on that chart here, you want to also be aware of number 5, size of your retailer network. Your networks will ebb and flow depending upon how well you support them. And what does the retailer want to see in support? He wants to see lots of advertising and lots of retail support. That's number 4 and number 8 on that page. And what does the retail support mean? It may mean that you're actually paying some money for if you'll take and carry your product. It could be that if you buy 100 dozen pairs of shoes, he'll throw in an extra 10 dozen pair for you, 10% more items. It could be that he'll give you some money, give that dealer some money to run local newspaper ads or TV ads. And it could be making available different kinds of displays that are over and above the value of the shoes that the man buys to enhance your presentation. The other things on there, the celebrity, number 6, celebrity, well, the retailer size. I'm going to, you will see in the video that I made that the size of, in an actual game, that the size of the retail network for one company was 500 stores. For another company, it was 5,000 stores. Who do you think could sell more product?
The one with the 5,000 stores?
You bet. So you got a lot more places. Every one of those you can consider that's a sales rep for me when I've got my product in his store. Now I could give him a little extra spiff of some kind, like I said, throw in some free shoes along with the ones that he buys, so that he'll prefer my product over somebody else's that he carries. But here I've got 5,000 guys out there selling, even if they aren't that good, they're going to get a lot more sales than 500 good quality salesmen. You can control the amount of retailers you have by giving them good advertising and good retailer support, and by buying good celebrity endorsements. Delivery time can run from 1 to 4 weeks. We'll come back to that later. Mail-in rebates is sleeves off your vest, because when you get a retail coupon, what you do is, and I'll say this again when we get to it farther on in the game, but what you do is you take that and put it in that drawer out in the kitchen where you have the phone, if you still have a phone that's attached to the wall. And then you forget about it until it expires, and you never take it back to cash it in. So it doesn't cost the company anything, but it may make people prefer to have your product just because they've got that rebate certificate they can file in their desk drawer by the phone. Shipping charges, you have to make a decision whether you will charge for shipping when you sell on the internet or whether you'll eat the shipping charges. And you know, with Amazon, most of the stuff doesn't have, if you're a Prime member, it doesn't have any shipping charges involved. Everything is determined by the preceding 10 factors. That one, the last slide. Everything that affects market share and sales potential is in those 10 factors. Now you have several strategic options. We have about 5 more minutes to look at those. You got wide latitude in defining the market position you have and working toward good performance. There's no built-in bias that favors any one strategy. Any well thought out strategy will work. It's all in the execution, the consistency, and the focus. The way that which you can get hurt when you go out in the marketplace, though, is other people have better strategies than you do. So you have to constantly be attuned to that. And secondly, too many copycat strategies where everyone's doing the same thing. And then there's what do you got going for you? Price is what it ultimately gets down to. And that's a poor thing to use as a market differentiator. You plan, when you operate with this, you plan your decision, and then the game, and they'll give you an expected result if you were the only guys out there selling. The game can't anticipate what the other guys are going to do with their decision. And so there will be a wide variation between what the game predicts will be your final results for the decision period and what you actually come in with the results because of the competitive marketplace and the other guy's decisions. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, Professor.
So if 2 companies make exactly the same decision, which can happen, you end up splitting the pie. There's blood on the floor. So your objective is to move away into a different market segment than your competitors. And you'll see on the video that I made, there's a chart that I call the bubble chart that is very, very helpful for determining whether people are doing the same thing that you're doing. Here's the logical approaches that you can take in your strategic thinking. Low cost, low price, which means you get your costs as low as you can get them and pass on part of those savings to your customers in the form of a lower price. Differentiated product, which means that you have something in that product that makes it preferred. For example, maybe the packaging that you're doing, or the advertising support that's out there, or the quality of the person that's doing that is a celebrity. All of those things will help differentiate or make the product different. Or you can go into a niche market. That is, you might say, well, I don't know. That was not real easy to implement. So I'm not going to waste any of our remaining 3 or 4 minutes on that. Your most likely thing is going to be either low cost, low price, or differentiated product. The final possibility that you have is best value for the money. And that's something that'd be very difficult to do in the game, but something we'll talk about specifically later on in the course. You could be a market leader in selling branded footwear to retailers or in emphasizing the internet. So you've got to get the balance that you feel comfortable with. And remember again that most of your business right now is in resellers or retailers. And you can change that over time in the course of the game. Or you can do both, and probably you will do both. Private label, strictly for excess capacity. You can also consider having a geographic focus, that is emphasis, as I said, if you don't like Asia Pacific, to create a differentiated focus against Asia Pacific and for, say, Europe, Africa. Or you can go for geographic balance, doing well in all 4 areas. You can have a worldwide strategy where the way you approach the market is the same for everyone, or a niche strategy where you might go with inexpensive shoes in Latin America where they have less money, and real Florsheim top quality product for Europe, Africa, because they have the ability and readiness to buy a more expensive product. You got to do scouting, and this leads you to you have to anticipate what the customers are going to do, and you'll easily be able to do that within 3 or 4 rounds. And then you have to determine how you want to respond to them. So this is not only looking at your decisions, but looking outside of your company at the rest of the industry. And the key report you have on this is called the Competitive Efforts Report. And that's where the slide presentation on YouTube picks up. So this is as far as we're going to go. Stop sharing. I don't know how many times we'll come back to this, but that should give you what you need to have a pretty good feel for where we're going. Any questions?
Professor, I have a question.
Yes, Francisco.
So for every single decision that we make, we do it as a team, right? It's not
That's
like a person.
Yes, and that's one of the first things that we'll do once we got the teams assigned is you got to work out, you got to wrestle with one another and figure out who's going to be the top dog and who's going to be handling each of the other functions. But one of you will have, if you're doing it most efficiently, one of you will have the function for marketeer, one for financier, and one for operations at least. And then if you you want to have an HR person, great. If you want to have an IT person, that's great too. But most of the decisions will revolve around those 3 functions.
Thank you, Professor.
In many respects, Francisco, the hardest thing to do is to learn how to play together in the sandbox.
Professor,
Yes, sir.
did you say the YouTube video is already up, or because I thought you said I thought you said the video was already up, but you're gonna post like a newer one.
Well, if the differences will not be that great. The thing I didn't like about it, Travis, is the pictures were not as clear as I wanted to see them, because I've got copies of these reports,
Yeah.
and it's pretty tough to see what's on there if you don't have a good pair of glasses.
Okay.
And I'm half blind to begin with, but let me just show you before you get out of here what those reports look like. That should be pretty clear on your screen. It's kind of fuzzy on the one that I've got for you. And this one which is a very important report. And I go into great detail with some of the numbers on here and why those numbers are important. It was just fuzzy. So I may just have to re-record it.
Okay.
To you do it at a higher, well, I can get a standard quality or I can get a superior quality. And I have to go for the superior quality. The only problem with that is it takes more time. Not for me to do it, but for me to sit there and watch the computer grind out a final version.
Is that are those like reports? Are those the reports that you get after our first our first attempt at the game?
Those are reports that you'll get every round.
Okay.
There's about 20 of them in there. And all of those are expressed on the navigation panel on the left-hand side of the page. But the most important one is the competitive efforts report. And I point out in my my video 3 or 4 other reports and also the specific area where to look to get the best information.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. We'll struggle through. We'll get there. Even I'll get there, as a matter of fact. So that's it. I noticed a couple people are now getting ready to go, and I know you all have other classes as well. So feel free to leave. And if you got any questions and want to stick around, that's fine too.
Bye, Professor. Thank you. Have a good night.